Hi boys and girls, it's Miss Burton. Today it is April 22nd. Today is Earth Day. Earth Day is a very important day for Earth. It is a day that we take time to appreciate everything that the Earth does for us. It brings so much to us. It gives us resources. It gives us land that we can grow crops on. It gives us water that we can drink from. You're able to go out on nature walks and just enjoy the beautiful landscapes that it has to offer for us. And I know sometimes, myself included, I'm guilty of not taking better care of the earth when I should. I drink a lot of water from plastic bottles, which isn't very mindful, so I hope that I can make a pledge, which is also word of the day for today. I hope I can make a pledge to drink from a reusable water bottle rather than a plastic bottle. So that's a goal that I have for this Earth Day, and hopefully I can continue to do so as the year continues. So I'm going to show you this picture of our lovely Earth that we live on. She's super cute. She's our home. And I want to share a story with you. It is called Just a Dream, and there will be an activity that you all will participate in after the reading is complete, or at least I hope that you'll participate. But before we begin, I want you to make a prediction with either think to yourself, talk to your mama, talk to your papa, mom, dad, one of your loved ones, someone. I want you to make a prediction before we read this book, so pause me, do what you need to do, and talk to someone, talk to yourself. How do you see the earth in the future? Do you imagine big, beautiful green pastures, or do you imagine smoke filling the skies? Think about that. So go ahead and pause me. How do you imagine the earth? Do you think it's still going to be the same? Is it going to be a little bit different? What do you think? All right. So now that you have paused me and talked about that with your loved one, I want you to also ask yourself, am I mindful to the earth? Do I take care of the planet every day, or almost every day, by throwing away my trash in a trash bin? Do I try to recycle? What do I do to help the earth? Ask yourself that question, or ask one of your loved ones. You can do that as well. Pause me while you're doing that. Okay, now that you all have discussed that, I'm going to ask you a question that I want you all to hold into your mind as I'm reading this story. How can I help the earth every day? So how can you do better? Okay, I told you how I can do better, and that is by using a reusable water bottle is how I hope that I can make a pledge to help the earth. Okay, so think about that as I'm reading this. How can you help the earth? How can you take better care of it, okay? All right, we'll get started. Just a Dream. Story and pictures by Chris Van Allsburg. Just a dream. He's in his bed and in his pajamas, but he's in a tree. Do you think he's having a dream? We'll have to read to find out, won't we? There we go. As usual, Walter stopped at the bakery on his way home from school. He bought one large jelly-filled donut. That sounds delicious. He took the pastry from its bag, eating quickly as he walked along. He licked the red jelly from his fingers. Then he crumpled up the empty bag and threw it at a fire hydrant. So there's his jelly donut trash that he threw off into the grass. At home, Walter saw Rose, the little girl next door, watering a tree that had just been planted. "It's my birthday present," she said proudly. Walter couldn't understand why anyone would want a tree for a present. His own birthday was just a few days away. "And I'm not getting some dumb plant," he told Rose. That wasn't very kind. After dinner, Walter took out the trash. 3 cans stood next to the garage. One was for bottles, one for cans, and one for everything else. As usual, Walter dumped everything into one can. He was too busy to sort through garbage. especially when there was something good on television. So there he is, just dumping everything to one trash can. The show that Walter was so eager to watch was about a boy who lived in the future. The boy flew around in a tiny airplane that he parked on the roof of his house. He had a robot and a small machine that could make any kind of food with the push of a button. Sounds very future-like. Walter went to bed wishing he lived in the future. He couldn't wait to have his own tiny plane, a robot to take out the trash, and a machine that could make jelly donuts by the thousands. When he fell asleep, his wish came true. That night, Walter's bed traveled to the future. Here he is. Do you all imagine in the future robots will be doing all of that for us? Oh my goodness. Walter woke up in the middle of a huge dump. A bulldozer was pushing a heap of bulging trash bags toward him. "Stop!" he yelled. The man driving the bulldozer put his machine in neutral. "Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there." Walter looked at the distant mountains of trash and saw half-buried houses. "Do people live here?" he asked. "Not anymore," answered the man. A few feet from the bed was a rusty old street sign that read Floral Avenue. "Oh no," gasped Walter. He lived on Floral Avenue. The driver revved up his bulldozer. "Well," he shouted, "back to work." Walter pulled the covers over his head. "This can't be the future," he thought. "I'm sure it's just a dream." He went back to sleep. Oh, and my computer went. There we go. There he is. Houses are covered. Trash is taken over. Oof. But not for long. So he's went back to sleep, but he won't be asleep for long. Walter peered over the edge of his bed, which was caught in the branches of a tall tree. Down below, he could see two men carrying a large saw. "Hello!" Walter yelled out. "Hello to you!" they shouted back. "You aren't going to cut down this tree, are you?" Walter asked. But the woodcutters didn't answer. They took off their jackets, rolled up their sleeves, and got to work. Back and forth they pushed the saw, slicing through the trunk of Walter's tree. "You must need this tree for something important," Walter called down. "Oh, yes," they said. "Very important." Then Walter noticed lettering on the woodcutters' jackets. He could just make out the words, "Quality Toothpick Company." Walter sighed and slid back under the blankets. Does that sound very important to cut down so many trees? For a toothpick? What do you think? Walter sighed and slid back under the blankets. Until what's going to happen next? We've seen a dream where it's covered in trash. And then we've seen a dream where there's barely any trees left. I can't imagine a world without trees. Walter couldn't stop coughing. His bed was balanced on the rim of a giant smokestack. The air was filled with smoke that burned his throat and made his eyes itch. All around him, dozens of smokestacks belched thick clouds of hot, foul smoke. A workman climbed one of the stacks. "What is this place?" Walter called out. "This is the Maximum Strength Medicine Factory," the man answered. "Gosh," said Walter, looking at all the smoke. "What kind of medicine do they make here?" "Wonderful medicine," the workman replied, "for burning throats and itching eyes." Walter started coughing again. "I can get you some," the man offered. "No, thanks," said Walter. He buried his head in his pillow, and when his coughing stopped, fell asleep. So all that smoke was making his eyes itch and burning his throat, which was the very thing that the medicine was supposed to cure. It's a lot of nasty smoke. He buried his head in his pillow, and when his coughing stopped, fell asleep. But then, what do you think we're going to see? Snowflakes fell on Walter. He was high in the mountains. A group of people wearing snowshoes and long fur coats hiked past his bed. "Where are you going?" Walter asked. "To the hotel," one of them replied. Walter turned around and saw an enormous building. A sign on it read, "Hotel Everest." "Is that hotel," asked Walter, "on the top of Mount Everest?" "Yes," said one of the hikers. "Isn't it beautiful?" "Well," Walter began, but the group didn't wait for his answer. They waved goodbye and marched away. Walter stared at the flashing yellow sign, then crawled back beneath his sheets. Putting a building on top of Mount Everest. Don't know if that's a good idea. Kind of takes away the purpose of Mount Everest. Walter stared at the flashing yellow sign, then crawled back beneath his sheets. But there was more to see. Oh my. Walter's hand was wet and cold. When he opened his eyes, he found himself floating on the open sea, drifting toward a fishing boat. The men on the boat were laughing and dancing. "Ship ahoy!" Walter shouted. The fisherman waved to him. "What's the celebration for?" he asked. "We've just caught a fish!" one of them yelled back. "Our second one this week." They held up their small fish for Walter to see. "Aren't you supposed to throw the little ones back?" Walter asked, but the fishermen didn't hear him. They were busy singing and dancing. Walter turned away. Soon the rocking of the bed put him to sleep. That's odd. Where did all of the fish go? That's a whole lot of ocean for just that to be their second fish in a week. Walter turned away. Soon the rocking of the bed put him to sleep. But only for a moment. A loud shrieking horn nearly lifted Walter off his mattress. He jumped up. There were cars and trucks all around him, horns honking loudly, creeping along inch by inch. Every driver had a car phone in one hand and a big cup of coffee in the other. When the traffic stopped completely, the honking grew even louder. Walter could not get back to sleep. Hours passed, and he wondered if he'd be stuck on this highway forever. He pulled his pillow tightly around his head. This can't be the future, he thought. Where are the tiny airplanes? The robots? The honking continued into the night, until finally, one by one, the cars became quiet as their drivers and Walter went to sleep. So there he is, on his bed in the middle of all of that traffic. And cars put off a nasty smell after so long. It's not good for you to breathe all that in. But his bed traveled on. There's a picture of him and a horse. Oh, whoops. That's okay. All the pages fell out. Okay. We'll fix that. Sorry. Okay, another page fell out. That's fine. Walter looked up. A horse stood right over his bed, staring directly at him. In the saddle was a woman wearing cowboy clothes. "My horse likes you," she said. "Good," replied Walter, who wondered where he'd ended up this time. All he could see was a dull yellow haze. "Son," the woman told him, spreading her arms in front of her, "this is the mighty Grand Canyon." Walter gazed into the foggy distance. "Of course," she went on, "with all this smog, nobody's gotten a good look at it for years." The woman offered to sell Walter some postcards that showed the canyon in the old days. "They're real pretty," she said. But he couldn't look. "It's just a dream," he told himself. "I know I'll wake up soon, back in my room." So all that smog has covered up the Grand Canyon. No one's able to look at it now. Everything's so polluted. No, I'm not putting that sheet back in. But he didn't. Walter looked out from under his sheets. His bed was flying through the night sky. A flock of ducks passed overhead. One of them landed on the bed, and to Walter's surprise, he began to speak. "I hope you don't mind," the bird said, "if I take a short rest here." The ducks had been flying for days, looking for the pond where they had always stopped to eat. "I'm sure it's down there somewhere," Walter said, though he suspected something awful might have happened. After a while, the duck waddled to the edge of the bed, took a deep breath, and flew off. "Good luck," Walter called to him. Then he pulled the blanket over his head. "It's just a dream," he whispered, and wondered if it would ever end. So do you think the ducks are even able to see their ponds now? Or do you think all of the pond water has just droughted up and there's no more water? Then finally, where's his bed headed to? There we go. Walter's bed returned to the present. He was safe in his room again, but he felt terrible. The future he'd seen was not what he'd expected. Robots and little airplanes didn't seem very important now. He looked out his window at the trees and lawns in the early morning light, then jumped out of bed. He ran outside and down the block, still in his pajamas. He found the empty jelly donut bag he'd thrown at the fire hydrant the day before. Then Walter went back home, and before the sun came up, sorted all the trash by the garage. There he is when he's waking up. There he is starting to sort out all of his trash. A few days later, on Walter's birthday, all his friends came over for cake and ice cream. They loved his new toys, the laser gun set, electric yo-yo, and inflatable dinosaurs. My best present, Walter told them, is outside. Then he showed them the gift that he picked out that morning, a tree. He's very proud of his tree. Remember what he told Rose? That he didn't want a silly old tree for his birthday. Well, the tables have turned. After the party, Walter and his dad planted the birthday present. When he went to bed, Walter looked out his window. He could see his tree and the tree Rose had planted on her birthday. He liked the way they looked side by side. Then he went to sleep, but not for long, because that night Walter's bed took him away again. So now he's happy. He's gotten to see the future. Now he's trying to change his habits. Sorry, had to make sure I had the right page. When Walter woke up, his bed was standing in the shade of 2 tall trees. The sky was blue. Laundry hanging from a clothesline flapped in the breeze. A man pushed an old motorless lawnmower. This isn't the future, Walter thought. It's the past. Good morning, the man said. You've found a nice place to sleep. Yes, I have, Walter agreed. There was something very peaceful about the huge trees next to his bed. The man looked up at the rustling leaves. My great-grandmother planted one of these trees, he said, when she was a little girl. Walter looked up at the leaves too and realized where his bed had taken him. This was the future, after all. A different kind of future. There were still no robots or tiny airplanes. There weren't even any clothes dryers or gas-powered lawnmowers. Walter laid back and smiled. I like it here, he told the man, then drifted off to sleep in the shade of the 2 giant trees, the trees he and Rose had planted so many years ago. Isn't that sweet? And that is the end. I hope that you all enjoyed that story. Miss Teeger shared that with me, and we were both very adamant that we share it with you all. So I hope that you continue or begin like I'm going to. I've made a very small pledge to begin to use reusable water bottles so that I can help Earth stay looking like this. Okay? And I hope that you all do too. You all can send in your pledges of what you may be going to do to make a pledge to help the Earth on this Earth Day, and continue to do that all throughout the year so that you get rid of your bad habits and trade them in for good habits, okay? And I also wanted to share with you the activity that we have planned for you all, okay? So I have made a poster. Let me make sure that you guys can see that. You guys can. Okay, so what we are asking for you all to do is make a poster and place this poster into a window so that people can see this as they are driving by your house, okay? I live out in the country, so my parents are only going to be the ones seeing this, but I may drop it off at my grandparents' house where more people are able to see it so they can learn more about Earth Day. So this is just an example of what we are asking you all to do, but yours is just a tiny bit different from what I did. What I would like for you all to do is to create a poster where you show a problem that you've seen in the book. So maybe the problem was him throwing his trash beside the fire hydrant, or the problem was that trees were being cut down quicker than new trees were being planted. So you see a problem from the book, and then you take that problem and draw it out, title it, and then at the bottom part of your poster, so kind of like cut in half, or however you want it to be decorated, we want to see a problem that you've seen in the book and a solution that you came up with that you could help decrease that problem. So let's say if it was where Walter threw the piece of trash beside the fire hydrant instead of putting it into a trash can, that's the problem. You could draw that. And then for a solution, it could be throwing that trash away into an actual trash can rather than making the grass the trash can, okay? So we want to see a problem and a solution. If you all need help with that, just let us know and we will be more than happy to help you with it and try to help explain it even more. But this is my poster that I made. It's going to be a little bit different because I wanted to save those problems and solutions for you all that was inside of the book, okay? So what I did was I showed 4 different ways that we can help on this Earth Day. So I wrote, do not litter. So I drew a trash can. Beside it, there was lots of trash that had been thrown, so that's kind of a problem. And for the solution, I drew a trash can, and I wrote, use me on the trash can. For this one, I wrote, use a reusable shopping bag. Rather than using a plastic shopping bag, you just bring that with you inside of the store and have your groceries put into that. So it's something that you could tell your parents, say, hey, we can help the earth by getting a reusable shopping bag. For this, I said reduce, reuse, recycle. So this is my 3rd way that I could help the earth, is by reducing how much I use of something, reusing things multiple times rather than just throwing it away. So I'm going to be reusing a reusable water bottle. And then I'm going to recycle things that can be recycled. I will actually show you this. It's sitting on my desk. Kind of crazy how that works. But this is something that I actually found when I went out on a nature walk. My boyfriend and I, we found this little container, and it was actually in a creek bank, and he dug it out. And now I bleached it and I put a succulent inside of it. So that's how I can recycle. You find old things and just try to find a different way to repurpose it. And that's what I did. This is actually, it's a Jergens jar. So I guess back in the old day, they put lotion inside of really nice jars, and now I've put a plant inside of it. So that's how you can recycle, reuse. And then for the last way that I said that we can participate in Earth Day was plant a tree. I have a little flower garden. I haven't planted a tree since I was probably your age with my parents, but that's something that we did when I was younger. But that's something that you all can do, and it can help the earth slowly but surely. We can help save it, okay? I hope that you all enjoy your Wednesday and enjoy this Earth Day. Go outside if it's pretty out and just enjoy it, okay? I hope that you all have a wonderful day. Bye.